Welcome back to the journey. In part one, we uncovered a foundational truth. Covenant identity is not built on labels, assumptions, or outward claims. But now the path becomes narrower. Because once identity is claimed, the wilderness begins to test it. In part two, we're going deeper into the wilderness filter. False confidence exposed, testing under pressure, and why many begin the journey, but few endure it. Let's continue walking the narrow path. So prophets are the witness. Ezekiel 20, 37 to 38. Bring you in to the bond of the covenant. Purge the rebels from among you and those who transgress against me. There's something powerful here. Notice this. Yahawah says that he will purge rebels from among the people. What does that mean? It means simply this. Not everyone gathered together is truly aligned. You think about the mass of people that were gathered on this exodus from Egypt. They were all together, but they weren't all aligned. The separation happens inside the assembly, this mass assembly. What was going on inside of that assembly was a separation. This is why the narrow path becomes uncomfortable, because that's where the pressure is. That's where the revealing takes place. Because pressure exposes hearts. And when the heart is exposed, that's when the truth is exposed. That's when the truth is revealed. The heart always reveals the truth.
And maybe that's why the people were called an evil generation, because Abba knew their hearts weren't embracing obedience. And if you're not about obedience, it's a condition of the heart. It makes your heart cold, right? And I think that's why you can describe those people as evil in Abba's eyes, because when your heart is not willing to embrace obedience, it's basically revealing itself to be in a condition that's not ready to be in alignment with the covenant, because you don't trust. There's not a trust for his ways and his decrees and his precepts. And, so I don't know. That's just one thing that just kind of stands out to me with that, is the condition of the heart. If we want to test ourselves in modern times, and when we see instruction as to what the scripture informs us, what the Torah informs us, and we have pushback in our hearts, that's an inventory we got to take of ourselves, because that same condition is what these people were known as, and they were called evil.
Mm. And that's a strong word, man. Evil. And Yahawah identified them as evil. Such a strong word. It's basically saying you're not for me. You're not with me. Yeah. So I believe you're right.
I think there was also, for them, the original peoples that left Mitzrayim, it was who were they truly following? Because Moshe was only gone for 40 days. And before he could even get back, they got a whole golden calf built. Who was truly influencing? Because he disappeared, and it takes a while to beat, to pound, to melt, to shape, and allow that to form. So were their hearts truly, or was it truly what you said in starting? There are people who claim, I'm part of the tribe by birth, but my heart's not in it.
Hmm.
So 2.5 weeks in, he's gone. What we doing? That brother been gone for a week. What we gonna do? And that's probably the leadership thought, right?
Yes,
Here's
sir.
our opportunity, because we don't like him anyway. Didn't he kill a man? He ran away.
Yeah, he's not one of us.
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't that sound like people in the church age today? If a pastor that has an affair or falls off their pedestal, all of a sudden people don't go to church no more. They've lost their faith. They have quote unquote church hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It's never rooted in anything other than just they had faith in a man.
Yep.
That's true. That's true. And the interesting thing about that also, Thomas, in building that golden calf, it wasn't like they had. Well, I don't believe it wasn't like they had, these blocks of these bricks of gold that they were melting down. They took their jewelry.
Absolutely.
You think about it. They took their jewelry, and the jewelry was something that was a blessing to them because it was given to them by the Egyptians who said, take this stuff and get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
That blessing, they turned into a golden calf. Within days of experiencing all that they experienced. An evil generation.
What's sad is the brother of the man leading them oversaw it. Aaron.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Right there, you would think he'd be like, hey guys, I know our leader is up in the mountains, but I don't think this is the way, He's like, actually, go ahead. Give me all your jewelry. I'll help you fix this thing.
Yeah. He's not coming back anyway. He's been gone too long. Yeah.
He told me I couldn't go with him. So y'all go ahead.
Exactly. That's it. But yeah, that's such a great example of how that really applies today, because we do see that pattern. That pattern hasn't changed at all. And that's a condition of the heart, or lack of condition of the heart. It's good stuff. So the filter, the path reveals alignment. So we're on this narrow path, and that's where the alignment comes. And it's not because Yahawah is unfair. It's because the journey, what the journey reveals. And what it reveals is who truly wants the covenant walk, who truly wants to walk in covenant with the Most High. Using a sports example again, when you have whatever the sport is, and you have a difficult practice, what you see in that practice, what happens because of that practice is discipline is established, commitment is established, endurance is exposed. And I recall, particularly when I was coaching, when my son was coming up, I coached all kind of stuff from the time he was 4 until, 16 or so, all the way from, kiddie soccer where he started, I think he was 4 years old, to, playing in AAU, travel basketball, and so forth. Something always was true, that once all the pressure started, the practices and the discipline required, the commitment required, the endurance that's required, something always was true. And that is, at the end, only a few actually were willing to go through the process. People will always fall off. Kids will fall off. That's not for me. That's not my deal. Because they couldn't handle the pressure. They couldn't handle what was required to be part of that particular sport. And the same is true in this pattern we see spiritually. The narrow path, it works the same way. Those who are unable to stand up to the pressure fall off, who are unwilling to be disciplined, unwilling to commit, unwilling to endure. They fall off. And that's what happened when the golden calf was crafted. Lack of discipline, lack of commitment, lack of endurance. They couldn't wait. This man who has been led by the Most High to free us from oppression and slavery, he's been gone for a few weeks, so we need to do something different. Lack of discipline, lack of commitment, lack of endurance. And
would you not also attribute that to a lack of faith? Because I have more faith now in Yahawah because of relationship than when I first was introduced to him as God, right? The intimacy has grown and developed to the point now I know his name. I don't want to say God, but sometimes I need to get an understanding in others.
Mm-hmm. And
sometimes it just slips out because 50 plus years of God, every now and then it pops out. And I get convicted in my heart and I go back and I apologize. But I think it's lack of faith also, because if you don't understand the process, then you're more than likely to not fully embrace what's happening to you. I think that's human nature.
Yeah. And you know, I love that example because of this. You are recognizing that the Most High has a personal name. Yet there are times when you refer to him by a title. And we probably all do. I think that's also different than only knowing him by a title and not knowing him by his personal name, or that he would like for us to have a personal relationship. Means that I will do my best to call him by his personal name. So I understand the apology part of it, the slip and the apology, but I think that's also different than saying that that's my norm. In a sense, he is a God in the traditional terms. He even, you know, scripture depends on the translation. He says, don't follow other gods. And, you know, traditionally we say, well, you got the big G versus the little g. Well, it's just, you know, it's a deity, right? And I would think that Yahawah, he is one that says, okay, you know me personally. If you call me by a title every now and then, I'm not going to be mad at you if you're using it for instruction and so forth, because that's not who we know him as personally. Just a thought, you know, could be off on that, but I think our personal relationship is important to him and knowing him personally. Thank you for sharing, because I think that's important for us all to understand how we all approach, you know, this transformation that we're experiencing. Because, you know, just like we started out today, it's only a remnant that's part of the transformation. So most people that we encounter have never heard any of the names that are identified with the Father.
Yeah.
Where
you know,
Yeah.
Go ahead. I apologize.
No, whether that's Yahawah, whether that's Yahuwah, whether that's Yahweh, whatever it may be, a lot of people just never heard of any of that.
Mm-hmm.
They just know God.
Yeah,
and so go ahead.
I apologize. The scripture that came to mind as you were talking was his disciples asked him, "Why do you speak in parables?" And his response was, "What I'm sharing is not," I'm paraphrasing, "what I'm sharing is not for everyone." So does that bring me peace? I want to share, but it does bring me peace in the sense of I'm being obedient to Ruach Kadesh.
To build on that, Thomas, I think the reason our Messiah said that is because he knew that people's hearts wouldn't be ready if they heard it shared another way. So share it in a parable. It's got a little bit of decoding that you need the Spirit to help you understand it. So it's potentially a planted seed, that later can be watered. But, for us, when we're having this conversation around our understanding of who he is and names, it's the same thing. If we say something that the heart of the person hearing is not ready to receive, the Spirit can give us insight as to when or when not to share, so yeah, I think that's a spot on example on the parable conversation, because not everyone can understand a parable. Well, not everyone can understand, hey, the Father actually has a name, a personal name. That's just not what they know, right? But when we do share it, when we're for me, my way of going about it is I try not to say the other terms and the old names, but kind of like brother Dayal was saying, having the phrases and terms that aren't pagan as titles, and referencing those, and I've gotten used to being able to express myself without ever saying Yahawashai or Yahawah, and still also not saying God or Jesus, and being around people, that don't know of those things. So, but I think that's what's fun about this whole journey, is that the Spirit's given us insight as to how to articulate and speaking to us in ways that we can actually, understand with what we're learning and with the knowledge, because there is something about the level. Everyone's at a different level in their walk and in a different place in their walk, right? So, anyways, just thought I'd add that.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, that's good. That helps me, because I never, but that was a while ago too, but I never put that connection together at that time. So I believe Ruach met me where I was at the time. So,
yeah, absolutely. That's what he does. So it's what he does. And that whole conversation right there really fits this slide, because, people trust in appearances, they trust in words, labels, emotions. But Yahawah looks deeper, man. He looks so much deeper than that. A person can look spiritual publicly while privately walking in rebellion. And I've seen it personally. I've seen it. So I know that happens. And, it's kind of like, in today's time, someone can post a motivational quote online, and they may do it every day, but they treat people horribly in real life. The outside image is not always the truth. There's something more that's lurking, because there's so much that's motivationally quoted online. There's all kind of platforms now, but the people behind it, they may not be who we think. So Yahawashai, his warning is extremely clear. Not everyone saying master, master enters the kingdom, period. Why is that? Because simply, it's words alone don't create covenant alignment. I mean, they're just not, they just don't do it, not words by themselves. And we think about this particular passage in Matthew 7:21, and it's really one of the clearest warnings in Scripture. And it's basically in this same chapter, it's talking about the narrow path. And the narrow path requires obedience, endurance, transformation. Never about performance. Yahawashai also says this: if you were Abram's children, you would walk accordingly. Walk proves identity. The way we walk goes back to the example Thomas used earlier. It proves our identity, who we hang with. The way we live, it proves our identity. If someone says, I follow this coach, someone can say they follow the coach, but if they ignore every instruction, they're not really truly following the coach. Yeah, the coach says do this, but I got my own way, and your own way hasn't proven to be successful, but you believe in your own way versus something that the coach is teaching you that's been successful. And so that just goes to say that real alignment produces action that works. When we walk according to Yahawah and the path that he set us on. And this is an extremely important verse in Romans 9:6. They are not all Yasharal. What in the world does that even mean? It goes back to the outward appearance. Not everyone who's associated outwardly is aligned inwardly. I may have an outward show, but it may not mean anything in terms of inward alignment. And there's a remnant pattern that continues to show up, and that is few remain faithful. Few remain faithful. So that's the reason why they are not all Yasharal, because they did not all remain faithful. And so it's not about pride. It's about the refinement, the willingness to accept the refinement along the path. Part 2 reveals something difficult but necessary. The wilderness is a filter. Pressure exposes the heart. Testing reveals alignment. And not everyone continues walking when the path becomes hard. But now we reach the deeper question. Who actually endures to the end? In part 3, we uncover how the remnant is formed, why endurance matters, and how Scripture consistently reveals that only the faithful remain. Continue to part 3 and stay on the narrow path.